All right. Thank you, Zoom. So, to get us started, I am going to launch a poll just to see where you all are at with your excuse me, knowledge of World Cup. So we are going to start with poll number 1. How familiar are you with FIFA World Cup 2026? You're all in, you know everything there is to know. Maybe you've heard about it, but not super sure all the details, or what's the World Cup? What webinar am I at? If you want to take a minute to answer those, just so we can sort of gauge where the audience is at today. All right, it looks like a lot of folks know a lot about it, but we're about half and half with all in and heard about it but need to learn more. So about 50-50. Thankfully, no one doesn't know what the World Cup is. So you are all in the right place. So thank you for that. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll for now, but I will well, I'll leave it up. We'll let it keep going for another minute. But I am going to go ahead and introduce Sarah Clark, who is our first speaker today. Sarah is Director of Policy at the Seattle Metro Chamber and is going to be sharing a bit more about how this partnership came to be. And then we'll moderate the rest of the program. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Welcome, everyone. We are thrilled to bring you this program today. And before we dig into the content, I just want to set the stage for the why of our work and the Seattle Metro Chamber FIFA World Cup Seattle 26 partnership and the business readiness work we're proposing to do on both sides of the Cascades. So first off, the pandemic really exposed gaps in our state and local economic development programming, especially for women and minority-owned small and micro businesses. This is an opportunity where, there's always more that we can do. Two, although our region has never hosted an event of this size and scale, we can look to recent large events in the Seattle metro area, like the 2023 All-Star Week and the record-breaking Taylor Swift concert, and see that as a region, we did not do enough to prepare the business community to be ready for these events. And as a direct result, many businesses lost money, and women and minority-owned small and micro businesses bore the brunt of this impact. So we've learned our lesson. And as we got confirmation that Seattle would be a host city, our team started meeting and brainstorming on what we could do differently this time and hopefully have a lasting impact. But yeah, to have different outcomes on both sides of the Cascade. So we're really excited to share our proposal and progress with you today. And we've invited our good friend April Putney, the Chief Strategy Officer for the FIFA World Cup Seattle 2026 Host Committee, to set the stage for us. So April, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarah. It's great to be with you all today, recognizing that many of you are already fully in the know about World Cup. Warms my heart. But some of you still want and need a baseline. I've got a brief presentation to just make sure we're all on the same page. And for folks that already know, feel like they know what's happening, hopefully there's some new information here about opportunities in the future. Real quickly, as Sarah mentioned, I'm with the local organizing committee. Folks may know this, but just as a reminder, FIFA has a requirement that all cities that are host cities for the World Cup, and you can move on to the next slide, and move right on to the next one as well. And you can see that there are 16 host cities for this World Cup. That there be a single entity that is the sort of one-stop entity for everything FIFA needs from our community, and then everything our community needs from FIFA goes through us as well. And we're tasked as our local nonprofit organization here to make sure that we have and deliver a region that is ready to host the world's largest sporting event ever held in 2026, in just 547 days away. So again, 16 host cities. Of particular note, want to flag for folks just the scale that we're talking about. You see that its expected viewership is more than 19 billion people. With the 6 matches Seattle is hosting, we're going to have more than 6, well, I guess this will be on the next slide. We expect to have 2 billion people. And I think a key thing on this slide is pointing out that Seattle-Vancouver connection is the second closest of all 16 cities. So we're really excited to be showcasing and marketing our Cascadia region as a whole to the rest of the world. Moving on to the next slide. As I mentioned, with the 6 matches, we are expecting more than 2 billion unique people to be watching the World Cup matches here in Seattle, and to be, seeing everything that Washington State has to offer. Up to 750,000 people will be here as well during a 3-week period between our first match and our last match. And only about half of them will have tickets. So just a lot of people here, nearly doubling the size of the city over that 3-week period to be here. Again, expecting a lot of travel between Seattle and Vancouver. We don't yet have the modeling on how many people, but that is something we are working on. And this is going to be a statewide experience. As Sarah mentioned, the goal is to be activating on both sides of the mountain across the state. We have proposed base camps in Spokane at Gonzaga, in Renton at the Sounders facility. We are anticipating one down in the University of Portland, and of course Vancouver will have one as well. There's also one down in Boise in Idaho. So really sort of bringing the full corners of the state together. We have multiple fan activations planned. You can move ahead to the next slide as well. And here is just the schedule in case you haven't seen. These are the 6 days that our games are going to be played in Seattle in 2026. And you can see from the Vancouver times, the schedule really does align pretty well to facilitate people to be going back and forth and not just staying here in one location. So this is why we think that will happen. And we're very excited to be hosting the U.S. men's national team on Juneteenth for our second game, and then kicking off Pride weekend as well on the 26th. And you can move on to the next slide. Go ahead and skip that one again. As it relates to business opportunities, we really wanted to identify that from our perspective, there's 3 different sort of categories and spaces that businesses can be participating. First and foremost, through our official events, with FIFA official events with the matches, and then at the fan celebration that we will be hosting at Seattle Center. And so opportunities to participate there are really, I think for the fan celebration, are really focused on the vendors that we'll be contracting with, as well as we'll be having a showcase, made in Washington showcase area. And so working to identify businesses that can be showing their products there and selling their products there. Second is a formal partnership with our organization for our events that we're hosting that aren't FIFA events, but are our local organizing committee events. And so those are the 9 fan zones that you saw on an earlier slide. We haven't named those locations yet, but they'll be named in early January. And then our legacy activations. For some of you who've heard this already, you know that we are really taking a legacy approach that I'll get to in just a second. I want to also flag that third space where I think the most businesses will really have an opportunity is local maximization by having more people in the state and here celebrating World Cup and being here. And I think that's really where our partnership with the Seattle Chamber is going to spend most of its time helping to prepare businesses to be ready. This is a space where we want to share as much information as we have when we have it so that we can be transparent about expectations and what we're seeing with, where a visitor is going to be coming from, how long do we think they're going to be staying, etc. You may know this, but World Cup visitors, because it's an event that happens only every 4 years, it's usually the travelers that show up are people who stay longer than normal sporting events. They're not here just for a night. They are usually here for closer to a week. And, that is an exciting opportunity to help ensure that folks get the chance to travel throughout the state and not just in Seattle. And so we are really excited about this partnership to make sure that our business community and our small business community in particular is ready for this opportunity and to leverage it. Moving on to the next slide, you can see, statewide activations. I mentioned this a little bit, but we again have major fan celebration at Seattle Center, and then 9 fan zones across the state. These are really the sort of premier places that people will be able to watch the games and sort of be in World Cup vibe experience outside of the stadium itself, which obviously has limited capacity. This is in addition to, any restaurant or bar or pop-ups that may be happening organically or that you may want to be organizing in your businesses as well. Moving on to the next slide. I mentioned that shared legacy approach that we are trying to take. We're really focused on that 1962 World's Fair avenue in which we want to ensure we have a safe, accessible, fun, inclusive event while also leveraging this moment of the global spotlight for our community to leave that positive legacy. So we are working on legacies that will be sort of permanent, like our partners at the Rave Foundation, who's works with Seattle Sounders, who are building mini play fields for improving access for kids to be able to play. They've already built 26 fields. They're working on building 26 more. Our partners, the Seattle Chamber, will be working on a small business toolkit that will be available and I think evergreen for mega events in the future, working with partners in labor and hospitality on a dispatch and training center for event-related workforce, and how can we ensure that that's something that we can be ready to help facilitate folks there. And then the improvements we're making in Lumen Field, in Seattle University, in University of Washington, at Gonzaga are things that will all help attract more mega events, whether soccer related or otherwise, to our region. And, please move on to the next slide. And can just talk a little bit about that small business readiness. We're really thinking about it sort of in concentric circles, like you see here, where, first and foremost at the stadium area surrounding Lumen Field with Pioneer Square, Chinatown International District, and SoDo, and then moving out from that, King County, and then again statewide, really focused on the inner space, on providing direct liaisons in each of those neighborhoods so that they can be providing technical assistance. I think the chamber will be doing something similar at a countywide scale, and then at the statewide space, really trying to get a toolkit to be available and seeking funding from the state to be able to provide technical assistance and grant support for businesses to be getting whatever they need to be ready as well. And moving on to the next slide. Wanted to also make sure that folks saw these numbers that were released by our partners Visit Seattle yesterday. the preliminary economic impact analysis showing that nearly $1 billion of total economic benefit to the region and supporting nearly 21,000 jobs with more than 100 million in state and local taxes revenues generated. This is super exciting. We also know this only happens if you all are ready and prepared, like Sarah mentioned. So we're very excited to be partnering with you. These numbers are also limited to within King County at this time. A future analysis will be done in December after the teams are announced, after tickets are sold, etc., that will be brought into statewide. So again, this is the minimum benefit that we expect coming to this state. And I think we can move on to the next slide. And sorry, skip ahead. Oh, and sorry, that coloring is wrong, but this is sort of just a quick roadmap to 2026, just so you have a general understanding of what's happening when. Like I said, in January, we're going to be announcing those 9 fan zones. Shortly after that, our partners at the Seattle Sports Commission will be releasing a community playbook as it relates to watch party guidelines, in case folks want to be planning things like that. We'll be launching our volunteer program in September. And then FIFA will be announcing the teams themselves in December. Base camps will be selected. That's when we'll know for sure if Gonzaga and Spokane are chosen. Visit Seattle will update that economic study. And then fan activations and game times obviously start in June. Want to flag one really important thing on here, that Club World Cup, and you can move on to the next slide that makes that even more clear. You may have heard that Club World Cup is being hosted here next summer. It's very exciting. Club World Cup is a tournament. It's the first time that the tournament has been sort of worked this way, but it is a tournament where it is more or less the World Series of soccer. It is the Tournament of Champions for clubs. So organizations like Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, the Seattle Sounders, as opposed to the World Cup in 2026, which is a tournament of nations. So countries will be playing in that one. World Cup in 2026, largest sporting event ever hosted in the world, and everything I talked about earlier is true of that. Club World Cup is an exciting new, much bigger tournament than previous, but it is not nearly the same. We're not expecting fan activations outside of the stadium. We do have an amazing lineup of teams that are going to be playing here, with the best team from France, the third best team, Club Atletico from Madrid, the best team from Argentina, teams from Brazil, or I'm sorry, Japan, really great teams that are going to be playing here. And so we are expecting folks traveling internationally, but not having major fan activations and probably staying in the Seattle area itself. So just wanted to clarify those two distinct things because they are coming up, and I think probably new ideas for everybody. And so with that, happy to stop there and pass things back to Sarah. And this, of course, does have our contact info if people want to follow up with us directly as well.
Thank you so much, April. All right. Well, next, I want to introduce 2 of my colleagues, Lynette Buffington, the Seattle Metro Chamber's Chief of Staff, and Vaughn Taylor, our Vice President of Economic Development, who are going to share more about our role and vision to get our region ready for FIFA World Cup 2026. So I'll turn it over to you guys. Thanks.
Well, good morning. I guess it's still morning. I'm happy to see everybody here. I'm Lynette Buffington. I am the Chief of Staff, and it's really fun to look in the participant list and see so many of my chamber colleagues from previous roles listed. And so I'm happy to see you here, even though I don't see your faces. Thanks for coming and joining us today. So as April and Sarah mentioned, there's just some great opportunities coming down the pike. We've learned from past experiences, what works, what doesn't work. We've also heard businesses loud and clear. You go down, a Reddit thread or a Facebook or anything like that around these major events in any city, and we've recognized some common themes about what helps businesses be ready and resilient for these opportunities and what doesn't. We know that scarce information creates confusion. A good example is the Club World Cup versus World Cup. It's not so much scarce as much as we're overloaded with all these great opportunities, and we need to clarify what is what. We know that the separation between organizers and the business community can cause problems and missed opportunities. And then we know mixed messages for residents and businesses and tourists about these opportunities, engaging with business districts and really capitalizing on these economic opportunities can also cause problems. All of this we've learned through the past in other cities. I've looked at what Rio did, what Detroit did, what LA did, what Las Vegas is trying to do, and understood how businesses are being engaged or, again, not effectively. We know that direct financial assistance works. We learned that with COVID. We know that toolkits and guides work. We know that technical assistance in implementing these toolkit ideas and best practices is really important. We know folks need communication and marketing support, and we know we need to have events to increase community and local awareness and get people excited and connected to the opportunity. Also, as April mentioned, the World Cup is going to have immense job creation, and many of you as businesses are going to be the job creators, especially in the hospitality sector. There's going to be tax revenue that's going to help our region and our state. And there will be direct spending into your businesses. So these are all just tremendous. Through all of this, and as Sarah talked about at the beginning, the Seattle Metro Chamber is looking at how to make sure that businesses thrive during this opportunity, that we're ready, and that we're also resilient enough to be ready for the next opportunity that comes this way, because there's plenty of entities out there trying to promote our region for even larger events. So we've looked at, as the business liaison for the World Cup, we've tried to identify some strategies, and Vaughn's going to talk about those in a second. But it boils down to providing technical assistance, finding ways for access to capital, making sure we share information. Much like this event today, we will continue to do information sharing. And then, centralizing some of this around your own communities across the state or on both sides of the Cascades. And we're going to be convening folks, and that's where you all come in. We have plenty of partners at the local level that we are working with, but we'll be convening chambers, and we'll be looking with our partners and consistently and repetitively, trying to share this information and get feedback. It's really important. There's, like I said before, there's consistent information sharing. Now, you guys all want to know what we're doing and what's going on. So I'm going to pass it to Vaughn, and he's going to talk in greater detail about the scope of work we're doing and how it applies to the statewide impact and some localized impact. So I'll let Vaughn Taylor, our Director of Economic Development, go to his part. And these are our partners that we're already working with. But if you look across the bottom there, we're looking, to work with industry and business associations. So we're slowly but surely putting together what I would call bundles of partners for different conversations, and you can expect some of that effort to kick off in the new year. And now for Vaughn, I'll let him take it from there and talk about our scope of work.
Thank you, Lynette. And as mentioned, I'm Vice President of Economic Development in Seattle Metro Chamber, and happy to lead our economic development efforts with many partners within our region. So in short, our number one goal is helping businesses get ready and stay ready before and after FIBA World Cup 2026. And the initiative is designed so that we maximize economic opportunities for all businesses, but especially small and BIPOC owned, while also fostering collaboration across Washington State. So one of the key strategies is expanding our community business connector model across King County and beyond. It's our award-winning program that's shown that collaborating with trusted messengers who are deeply rooted in the community is the most effective way to support businesses. Our business owners can feel secure knowing that someone can meet them where they are, and also work with them closely to find assistance. As you know, many businesses have questions about access to capital, business planning and marketing. Others are seeking assistance with government forms or grants. And for some, it's important to have a language interpreter. And we can't forget our folks located in local and unincorporated areas. We just want to increase the presence of community business connectors in business districts and downtowns, and also where resource connections are needed the most. So when we talk about how we help businesses prepare for World Cup, it's we're looking to extend technical assistance beyond King County and to support small business in the state of Washington. This involves funding our ADOs. These are associate development organizations, as well as chambers that deliver customized training and resources. Our grant allocations will prioritize initiatives that directly benefit businesses, ensuring that equity remains the forefront of our efforts. And to be World Cup ready, we'll have also hosting info sessions, and also as a chamber, we'll provide value in that way, both online and in-person information sessions. Next slide. And ultimately, we want to give businesses information they need to get ready, as I said. So we all believe, again, with our partners at the LOC, that effective communication and collaboration are essential for our success in this initiative. So some of the things that we're doing with our chamber communication tools is that we're delivering the signature small business readiness playbook in partnership with the LOC. But in addition to that, we'll coordinate our chambers, our business improvement areas, also our industry associations to ensure consistent messaging, but also discuss any World Cup themed business strategies that we can design and implement together. We'll also host forums bringing together the business community to strengthen partnerships and optimize our World Cup related business opportunities. These convenings will ensure that among our stakeholders, fostering a united approach and maximizing the full economic impact for this event. So in summary, Seattle Metro Chamber, along with its partners, are one, driving the community business connector approach to reach small businesses. Two, invest in technical assistance and business grants beyond King County. Three, host World Cup ready business informational sessions. And four, deliver communications for statewide stakeholder engagement. So with that, give it back to my colleagues at the Chamber.
Thank you, Vaughn and Lynette. So I think one question that might be in everyone's mind at this point is how are we going to pull this off? Where's the money going to come from? So I'm really excited to announce actually that we were just recently included in the 2025 King County biennial budget. And we received $500,000 to start doing our work in King County. But in order for us to bring our full vision to become a reality, we need all of your help during the 2025 state session to ensure that we get the funds we need to help businesses on both sides of the Cascades get World Cup ready. So we are asking state leaders for $6 million, which, as Vaughn and Lynette just shared, will help us provide grants to small women, minority-owned businesses, and technical assistance statewide. Will help with marketing and statewide communications, and also fund chamber convenings and regional World Cup ready community events to get local communities and businesses hyped for the games in the spring of 2026. So our strategy is that along with our partners, the local organizing committee, we're going to have one World Cup ask in 2025 that will include our business readiness $6 million operating request ask, and also a nearly $39 million capital World Cup venue readiness ask, and third and last, a public safety and security operating budget request that's $9 million. And I'm sure most of you are aware of the projected deficit at the state level. And so it's really important, one, that we create a large coalition of support for our World Cup ask. And two, that we are all using the same messaging and are on the same page during legislative session. So after this webinar, we will follow up with attendees. I am going to share our advocacy one-pager with all of you so you can see in more detail what our state budget request is. And then also a sign-on letter that we will be sending to the legislature right before session that we hope all of you will sign on to and support. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Lee. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I think Lynette has something else quickly for us. Or no?
We did kind of zoom through that on the PowerPoint. The FIFA World Cup page website is tremendous. And I recommend you just save it as a favorite. But up towards the top right, there is an area called opportunities. And if you access that, you can see the opportunities to directly contract with our FIFA World Cup office and also some workforce development programs. And I'm not sure what else we're going to add to that page. April, you're free to interrupt me or correct me. But I want to, there's always a lot of questions, and currently there's questions in the chat about direct contracting opportunities. And this is where those will be listed. So please don't sleep on that tab.
Yeah, thanks, Lynette, for flagging that. And in particular, if you click on that tab, there's it's where any open RFPs that are either our local organizing committee has or that we know FIFA itself has. So just as a point of reference, we are hosting obviously on that opportunities slide earlier that I showed where there were three different levels. We are, the LOC partnerships, and we are the Seattle Fan Celebration, the Fan Festival. But FIFA is responsible for all things related to the match and the games at the tournament and the hospitality and things that will be out at the tournament. So they'll also be doing a lot of contracting themselves. So as soon as we hear of any contracting needs they have, we post that on our website as well. And then there is a space, if you scroll down on this website here, where you can proactively put yourself forward as a vendor who's interested. And when we are going to go out to bid on something in your area, this would automatically add you to that list.
Great, thank you.
Perfect. All right, so let's move to Q&A. Vaughn, Lynette, April, Sarah, if you can all be ready. I'm not sure who all the questions will go to. So first off, I see a question from Sam. What kind of support can advisory firms offer that would be most helpful to the chamber right now?
I'm going to telepathically say, Vaughn, this would be your question.
Sure. No, great question. We always like to work with partners and also consulting firms in our region. I would say there will be an opportunity for an RFP to design and create the playbook, but I guess the immediate opportunities would be when we have our World Cup ready info sessions, and then we'll have opportunities where subject matter experts can talk about some of the ways businesses can be ready and just be prepared in a way for World Cup and its in business operations. So that's one immediate way how we can contribute as a consultant.
Great, thank you. We have another question here. Francisco wants to know what steps have already been taken, or what does that process look like to creating that small business toolkit that was mentioned?
Yes, so that toolkit, it's still in its early stages where we're having conversations about what it looks like. But before we get there, it's about talking to a small group of advisors that can help guide, again, design the RFP that actually go out and find who would be the actual principal and creator in collaboration with the community and the chamber and its partners to create the World Cup. I mean, the small business readiness playbook. So that's to be determined in short.
Okay. Excuse me. Great. All right. Derek asks, the chamber's communications plan mentions coordinating with other chambers, BIAs, industry associations, and ADOs. Will this also include cities and government?
Sure. So right now we're focusing on where we know we do have the funding in terms of King County. So we're already trying to put our work group together for local governments in King County with briefings and things like that. If we get our the funding is secured from the state, then we will modify the localized model, include a much larger model of convening impacted municipalities and entities as well.
Great. Let's see here.
We skipped Olivia's is the official campaign. We are 26 Seattle. Is that the tagline, April?
We are 26 Seattle, or we are Seattle is the social handles that we use. Yes.
Thanks.
Great. Sorry about that. Jill asks, it feels like the Club World Cup in 25 is the perfect test for the 26 World Cup in areas of transportation, safety, security, activation. Is there a Club World Cup organization that is coordinating with April's team, or is that April's team?
What a great question. There is not a local organizing committee for the Club World Cup, because it is really more of a stadium event, sort of, like a international friendly that we've hosted before, or like a Seahawks game. And so we are partnering with the First and Goal, the Seattle Seahawks at Lumen Field are the primary folks organizing for this, since it's a stadium event, and the Seattle Sports Commission is coordinating with them as well.
Great, thank you. Will there be help with permits, like cost and quick access for businesses to think outside the box when it comes to things like outdoor seating, et cetera, as they're maybe planning their activations?
That might be a collective approach, meaning the local organized committee in their playbook or toolkit might have some ways to inform that process, but also our playbook might have some of those components. And most part, as we're planning along the way and developing tools and communications, I think that's one of the main questions that we'll get from municipalities and businesses, that will start talking about what they can do to help streamline that process in their community. But of course, as a chamber and our other partners, we do have state connections and relationships where we can help in a more broader sense of regulatory. But on the ground, I think that's going to be a collective effort, because every process and procedure is different at their local municipality.
Okay, thank you. We have a couple of Vancouver questions, so I'm going to lump those together. Just clarifying, I'm 99% sure the answer is no, but the Seattle FIFA LOC committee is not managing the Vancouver process as well, correct?
That's right, Lee. There's a local host committee there. It's actually the city of Vancouver is the host committee that we partner with. We work with them on a very regular basis, though.
Great. So another kind of Vancouver related question. They just had Taylor Swift there last weekend, and that showcased some issues with big event cross-border travel. Are there plans for know before you go communication tools for that travel and international ticket purchasers?
Yeah, huge priority, particularly since the Vancouver-Seattle connection is the second closest, and the only one certainly that involves a border crossing. So we have been having lots of conversations again with our Vancouver counterparts, but really led by FIFA because their point on intercity transportation. And so coordinating with them, as well as Border Patrol for both Canada and the United States on what are the opportunities to enhance the Know Before You Go campaigns. FIFA requires anyone that's coming and then will have a ticket will have to use the FIFA app. And so that really gives us a great opportunity to share a bunch of information, and usually other people that travel here as well, even if they don't have tickets, will use that app as well because it's going to have all of the handy information about how you travel locally and anything you know. So I think between those and the partnership with the Customs and Border, that we are really working to maximize that education campaign, particularly because the rules are different, right? So we want to make sure that people know and aren't thinking that they can just drive across the border if they have a DUI or something like that. So really wanting to make sure, as well as trying to do an enhanced campaign around, access to Nexus cards and things like that.
Great. Thank you. All right. Linnea is very interested in how we are accommodating all of these people. Um, are we looking at other cities with direct flights to Seattle for them? Is that part of the program? What does that look like?
Yeah, with up to 750,000 people over a 3-year or over a 3-week period during our peak tourism season, that is a very real question. We are anticipating that hotels are going to be booked, far outside of the Seattle King County area. I think, up and down I-5 across I-90 is sort of what our baseline expectation is right now, particularly I think north between here and Bellingham, given that Vancouver connection is very real. I know that airlines are talking about bumping up flights and seeing what's possible there. I was just having a conversation with someone with the Spokane airport, having that exact conversation in light of them potentially hosting a base camp in particular.
Great, thank you. I do want to flag one of our, someone dropped in the Q&A that the Office of Economic Development Special Permits team can help with some of the issues from that earlier question around like outdoor seating and kind of that permitting process. So thank you, Olivia, for sharing that.
And Lee
Pause.
also,
I know I'm seeing some questions come in that I think can be answered with one answer from April. Can you talk about the difference between the small business playbook and the community playbook, and what their official titles are and what the content looks like? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry that all of these names are very, very similar. So the small business toolkit is more, is exactly how Vaughn described it earlier, right? It's really trying to aimed at the businesses directly and the technical assistance and things you'd want to be thinking about as to how you could best leverage this moment. The community playbook is more aimed at watch party viewing parties and what are the different types of rules or restrictions that apply to that, so that people can, and what are best practices for hosting those sorts of things. So more aimed at like a neighborhood. Obviously businesses can utilize them as well, but it's more aimed at like a neighborhood sort of aspect.
Thank you.
And what's the delivery timeline on the community one?
So it's in this spring. So I think it's February or March. I can't quite remember what the timeline is, but that's what we're aiming for.
Okay.
Of 25 or 26?
Yes, of 25.
Okay, great, thank you. And then Vaughn, were you
yeah,
sharing something
I was
else?
just going to make a point about permitting. So with that, this this is an excellent opportunity to kind of leverage the Seattle Metro Chambers platform to give us topics like this so we can spotlight potentially other city partners and what they're doing to get a World Cup ready, and maybe a topic about permitting and what's been successful in other counties or cities across the state. So keep those type of questions coming. That would help us to formulate types of topics that can help.
Great.
Be different.
And I can put the slide back up with Vaughn, Lynette, and Sarah's contact information at the end if you have questions for them after this, and April's was shared as well. Jordan wants to know, what's the best way for media production companies to get involved? Will there be a contact list of stakeholders, or will it be addressed through RFPs?
Yeah, it'll mostly be addressed through RFPs, at least for production companies that we need. We have some firms that we're already working with, but I imagine we're going to be expanding that. So anything that we have, it'll again be on that website that Lynette showed, Seattle FWC26.org/opportunities.
Great. And then Derek's question, a resource with any legal requirements for showing the matches at watch parties. It sounds like that will be in the community playbook.
That's in the community playbook that the Sports Commission is working on.
Great. Benny wants to know more information about the mini pitches that you mentioned, the process for building mini pitches.
Yeah, I will put the Rave Foundation's website in an answer there, so that can be listed there. But the Rave Foundation is who have been taking the lead on that. So I'll again put their link in the chat, and you can see the different places across the state that have already opened for those fields and what exactly comes with them.
Great. Jesse wants to know if FIFA has allocated advertising budgets to host cities to promote tourism, or if all the funding is coming from state or city.
FIFA is responsible for hosting the games and sort of the operations of the games themselves, and in any promotion we want to do for the city or the state is generated locally, whether public or private funding.
Great, thank you. Let's see. Noah asks, is there a project or a plan to promote small businesses in Seattle specifically, like things to do while you're in town? Would that be in the app, or is there any other plan there?
Yeah, that would be, as mentioned, I keep saying this again, the collective effort and more than likely led by the City of Seattle and Office of Economic Development and their key partners to promote businesses in Seattle. But of course, we're working closely with them in our own backyard. So that will where that information would live.
And then I would also add, we will have, we're actually working on developing an app ourselves as well that'll be connected to the FIFA app. And it's intended to sort of be a gamification of tourism to promote small business activation around the city and around the state. And it's something that we're looking to have our beta version out in the summer so that we can start testing it and help promoting. And it'll be something along the lines of Pokemon Go, except soccer related, where you'll get to sort of like, head balls and things like that virtually. And then folks will get rewarded with FIFA related swag, so World Cup related swag. So really, we think things to help promote people moving across the community and going to visit small businesses. And then we'll have a calendar as well on our website that it will be a link to the FIFA app as well that has, the different things that are happening in the city for sure.
Cool. This question may be something directly to one of you offline, but looking at the current partners involved, is there any want or need for a banking institution to help with grants or as a resource for small businesses?
Answer is yes. Happy to take that call and talk about, because we worked with community banks, institutions, as well as regional national banks as well for that very thing. Especially we talk about community investment for small business. So happy to have a conversation about it.
Okay. Great. So it sounds like that's a direct question to Vaughn, and I'll put the contact information up here now, actually, while I'm talking. Um, all right. We have a couple more minutes. Let's see if we can get any more questions. Do we know yet, are Alaska cruises planning to depart as normal from Seattle during this period?
Yeah, we are coordinating with the cruise industry. It is as far as I understand, it is still going to be during their normal departures as well.
All right. Let's see.
Can we talk about Derek's question about the, 750,000 visitors will be here, like how long they'll be here? I know, and I don't expect April to answer the second part of it. We've really gotten requests to, we can talk about this large volume of visitors, but what does a day even look like? So again, how long will visitors and teams be here? What do we expect? And then see if you can answer that part, April.
Yeah, so the average fan certainly stays for like I said, more than just a night or 2 nights. Like with typical sporting events, they're usually here closer to a week. We're working on getting more specific fan profile assumptions that we can have and share from FIFA so that folks can sort of better tailor their activities and knowledge directly to the sort of typical fans that have traveled for World Cup. I think you probably saw on a slide earlier that in past World Cups, more than half of the fans have been from abroad. And so that is what we are expecting. And that also sort of corresponds to why they're staying longer than just a single night or two. It is really over that 750,000 or sorry, 750,000 people is over that 3-week period that we are hosting games. And so if you want to go back in this chart to the calendar of games for Seattle, the games, or the 3-week period lasting between the March 15th and June 15th and July 6th for when our games here are happening locally. So that's that time frame that we're expecting. It is more than just a regular Taylor Swift or a sold out stadium event because there are a lot of people that will come who don't have tickets because they just want to be a part of the experience. They want to be a part of the vibes, whether that's at the fan celebration in Seattle Center or, across the state. I think most of them will be in the sort of the Seattle area for international fans. But we are working to get modeling from FIFA to help us understand how many folks who come from abroad that don't have tickets are likely to come and sort of still travel around the state as well. And I think the big thing here is we don't know how many people will be here in addition to those that have fans until we know what teams are going to play here and what nations will be here, right? And we don't find that out until December of 2026. So really just saving the best for last and helping to make it as hard as possible for operational planning purposes. But that is when we'll find out what teams play here. And so, premier teams usually show up with a lot more fans. I think I've heard Brazil usually travels with an entourage of 12,000 people who are here. And so that's the type of thing. This is the largest World Cup. That means they've doubled the number of teams that participate. So there's likely going to be a lot of first-time teams. In particular, Asia and Africa have 8 more teams that can qualify than previous World Cups. And with our proximity to Asia, we're really hopeful that we'd be able to get and have some of the teams from Asia playing here, and think that would be a really fun and amazing experience for the folks that live here. So again, I think we don't have a lot more information besides what we've shared already. We do, I think, in a future conversation that's focused on transportation, we have some modeling that we'll be able to show as to like when we expect the biggest flow days for transportation related issues that I think help in some way with travel demands.
Thank you. Maybe we can sneak in one or two more questions. But also noting that I'll send the recording out in a post-event email as well, along with everyone's contact information. So if you have more follow-up questions, you can connect with one of our speakers. Will there be an effort to engage with participant nations, soccer or associations or orgs who will be playing here?
Absolutely. We're working closely with the consulate offices already to just prepare and make sure they have all the information they need to be communicating to their expats that are living locally. And we're very excited to work with communities across the state that have high concentrations of whatever teams or nations of whatever teams end up playing here.
Great.
Can
Okay,
I
well,
interrupt real quick? There's a lot of partners in executing this. Obviously, our local organizing committee, FIFA, is a global entity, local municipalities, the Chamber with Business Readiness. I want to clarify that our LOC is doing the app with the Pokemon Go, it's not a chamber app, so just clarifying. And then public safety, the chamber isn't working on the public safety element, but we think we will be doing a briefing about public safety because that is aside from transportation, that is the most common inquiry that we're seeing out in the community as this is being talked about. So I see a question in there, fan and resident safety, and I'm sure we'll be doing a webinar or briefing on what the LOC and local public safety has to share about that later on.
great. Thank you. So we're just past noon. I think it's time to wrap up. If you didn't take the poll earlier about what other topic areas you'd like to see us cover in one of these webinars, it should still be open for you now. So if you want to pick your top three, and we'll be doing these World Cup ready webinars from the Chamber and some other partner organizations for the next 2 years. So buckle up. And I believe that's it. Unless there's a last thought from any of you, I'll wish everyone have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good to see
everyone.
folks.
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.